Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. I sat in my seat, the hot sun beating down on my face, sweat soaking through my graduation gown. Around me, the other graduates fidgeted, chatting with family, trying to distract themselves from the heat. But I could feel my dad's eyes boring into me from the row behind. Jack grumbled under his breath, eyes narrowing as he squinted at the stage. "This is ridiculous. We should have stayed home in the air conditioning. What's the point of this nonsense anyway?" His voice was a low growl, like a bear nursing a headache. "Jack, it's Abby's day. Try to be supportive," my mom, Sandra, said, her tone softer, but even she sounded worn down by his complaints. She shot me a quick, apologetic look. Supporting her? At 27 years old, she should have been done with this by now, Jack muttered. Should have had a real career by now, not playing around in school. I held my breath, keeping my eyes straight ahead. I knew better than to start anything right now. He wasn't going to listen. I was too old to be here, I knew that. But I'd made a decision years ago. This wasn't about what anyone else thought. I was here, finally. I could hold my head high. Rachel, my younger sister, glanced at me with a tight smile. "Don't listen to him, Abs. You did it. That's what matters." Jack snorted, shaking his head. "What's she gonna do? Take out a second loan for a degree she's never going to use? It's a waste." "Dad," Rachel started, but I cut her off before it escalated. "Don't," I said quietly. "It's fine." The next moment, my name echoed through the loudspeaker. My heart gave a quick flutter, but I stood up, straightened my gown, and walked toward the stage. The applause was faint, a little unsure, but my classmates were clapping. They were all in the same boat, some of them even older than me. I wasn't alone. As I reached the podium, I could feel Jack's eyes on me, and I knew what he was thinking. He had no idea how much this moment meant to me. It wasn't just about the degree. It was about finally proving something to myself. But I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. I accepted the diploma, shook the dean's hand, and took a deep breath. Let them talk. I knew who I was now. When I returned to my seat, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I checked it quickly under the table. "It's happening. Call me ASAP. Mike, my business partner?" I frowned, but there wasn't time to deal with it right now, so I tucked the phone away and sat back down. Jack mumbled something else about how the whole thing was ridiculous. I ignored him, feeling that familiar pressure build in my chest, but I kept my eyes forward, determined to see this through. I crossed the stage, my feet steady even though my stomach was doing flips. The applause from my classmates was muted, but it was there, and that was enough for me. I kept my eyes straight ahead, gripping the edges of my diploma. The heat hit me again, but I barely felt it now. I had made it. When I sat back down, I pulled my phone out of my pocket. Another message from Mike. "It's happening. Call me ASAP." I stared at the words, feeling the pressure building in my chest. I wanted to call him, to make sure everything was good, but I couldn't. Not here. Not with my dad sitting behind me, grumbling every few minutes about how stupid all this was. Jack muttered under his breath again, loud enough for me to hear. "This is a damn joke. Shouldn't have come. Wasted my morning." I didn't respond. I just let it roll off. The ceremony was almost over. If I could just get through this, I could focus on what really mattered. My phone buzzed again. Another call. This time, I looked at the screen. It was Claire, one of my business associates. I swiped to answer, feeling my pulse quicken. "Hey, Claire," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Abby," she said, her tone warm but tight, like she was holding back excitement. "I just wanted to thank you for the recent donation. The $250 million for the tech project, it's huge. The team's already making strides, and we're going to be able to start revamping the education system in ways we've only dreamed of." I froze for a split second, then forced a smile. "Of course, you guys are doing amazing work. I'm just happy to help." Behind me, I heard my dad's voice, a low growl. "What's this about now? Some tech project?" I clenched my jaw, but Claire didn't seem to notice the tension. "We're starting with K-12 systems, but eventually, we're aiming for universities. This is going to change how we approach education in this country, and your support is going to make all the difference. You're changing lives." I couldn't help but look around at my family. Jack's expression had shifted from annoyance to confusion, his eyebrows knitting together. Sandra was staring at me with wide eyes, probably trying to make sense of what she was hearing. I forced myself to stay composed, despite the weight of their attention. I'm glad to be a part of it, I said, my voice steady, even as the pit in my stomach widened. I'll check in later. Keep me posted. Absolutely. Talk soon, Claire replied, hanging up. I sat there for a moment, the silence stretching between us. Jack's voice broke at first. What the hell was that? I looked over at him. It's a project I'm involved in. It's important work. Rachel, who had been quiet up until now, leaned forward, her eyes narrowed. $250 million. Abby, what the hell have you been doing? Sandra was looking at me now too, the wheels turning in her head. You're not telling us something, are you? Her voice had softened, but there was an edge to it. What's really going on, Abby? I let out a breath and set my diploma down on my lap. I've been involved in a lot of things, okay? Tech companies, education initiatives, real estate. I've been busy. Jack snorted. What, you've been living in some fantasy world while we've been dealing with real life? I thought you were just working at that coffee shop. I could feel my heart pounding now, but I didn't let it show. I wasn't just working at a coffee shop, Dad. I was building something real. Rachel was already pulling out her phone, tapping away furiously. She looked up at me, eyes wide. You've been running companies all this time? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I just nodded. Yeah, I've been running several successful businesses. One of them was a tech startup. It sold for over $100 million a few years ago. That's just one of them. Jack's face twisted, like he couldn't quite process what I was saying. You can't be serious. How have you been doing all this and still living under my roof? I didn't want to tell you, I said quietly, the words coming out easier now. I didn't want you to treat me any differently because of it. I just needed space to do my thing, without your judgment. You should have told us, Sandra said softly, but there was a note of hurt in her voice. You've been keeping this from us, Abby. I didn't want you to think I was showing off, I said, my voice tight. I've been working on changing the way education works. I've been focused on making learning more accessible. Not for the money, but because it matters. Jack was silent now, staring at me, still processing. Rachel glanced between us, her fingers still scrolling through her phone. You're a damn millionaire? Jack finally asked, voice low and disbelieving. I nodded. Yeah, and more than that. Rachel looked up, her expression still incredulous. What else haven't you told us? I shrugged. I've kept a low profile. I didn't want the pressure. I didn't want to be the daughter with the big fortune who everyone expected to do something else. Jack shook his head slowly, still trying to grasp it all. You've been sitting on all this and not saying a word? I met his gaze. It wasn't about you, Dad. It was about me. Jack stared at me, his mouth hanging open as he tried to process what I had just said. For a moment, the only sound in the air was the distant murmur of other families chatting, unaware of the storm unfolding at our little corner of the stadium. You've been running tech companies? Billions? He finally asked, his voice low, almost a whisper, as if saying the words out loud might make them real. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. Yes, Dad, more than one. The Education Tech Project is just one of them. Rachel, who'd been silent up until now, leaned in, her phone out, furiously typing away. She didn't even look up as she spoke. Jesus, Abby, I just Googled one of your companies, BrightLearn. It's worth over $3 billion. How the hell did you keep this from us? I didn't flinch. I'd expected the disbelief, the shock. Hell, I had prepared for this moment for years. But that didn't make it any easier. I didn't want you to know. Not like this. I needed time to figure things out on my own. Jack's hands tightened into fists, his face reddening. You've been hiding billions from us. Living under my roof? Pretending to work at a coffee shop? Not pretending, I snapped. I worked there. I was building something else on the side. It wasn't a lie, just not the full truth. He shot up in his seat, his voice rising now, sharp and angry. So you've been lying to me all these years. We thought you were struggling, stuck, wasting your time, and you were sitting on this? He waved his hand in the air, like the entire situation was too big for him to grasp. I stood up, the diploma still in my lap. I didn't want anyone to treat me like I was different, I said, keeping my voice even. I didn't want you to expect things from me because of what I was building. I didn't want you to judge me for being successful or for not having a normal career. I wanted to do this on my own terms. Rachel's fingers flew across the screen of her phone, her eyes wide. Schoolbox. That's another one. You bought it out of bankruptcy. It's worth over $500 million now. Abby, you never said a word. I could feel the heat building in my chest, but I stayed calm. I'd had this conversation in my head so many times, I knew exactly what I had to say. I know. But when you're building something, you can't focus on everyone else's expectations. I kept it under wraps, and yeah, maybe I should have told you more. But it wasn't the right time. Jack shook his head, clearly struggling to piece everything together. You tell me you're broke and need help? Then you've got billions? You've been sitting here under my roof and I had no idea? He was pacing now, his voice getting louder with each step. How the hell does that even happen? I started small, I said, lowering my voice, trying to keep it steady. My first company was a failing tech startup. It barely had anything when I bought it. I turned it around, invested in it, fixed its problems, and sold it for $100 million. That's when I knew I could do it. I just kept building from there. Jack froze, his eyes narrowing. You bought a failing company? You don't know a damn thing about tech. I held his gaze. I learned. You figure it out. You take risks, and you trust yourself. It's not magic, Dad. It's hard work. And I didn't have anyone else to lean on. I didn't want to disappoint you by doing something different, so I kept it to myself. Rachel was still scrolling, a mix of disbelief and awe on her face. I don't even get it, Abs. You went from working in a coffee shop to this empire? You've been keeping all this secret for years? I nodded. Yeah, I kept it quiet. I wanted to make my own path, but I knew if I told you, you'd just see it as something I was doing wrong, or something that wasn't good enough. Jack's face was red now, his chest heaving with frustration. How am I supposed to understand that? You had it all along, and you never said a word. I took a breath, trying to center myself. I wasn't hiding it to hurt you. I was trying to protect myself. From your judgment. From your disappointment. Rachel dropped her phone onto the seat next to her. Okay, I get it now. But Abby, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you trust us to be happy for you? I didn't want to be treated like a project, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I didn't want anyone to look at me differently because of what I was doing. And I didn't want the pressure of feeling like I had to live up to what you expected. Jack's jaw clenched, and for a moment, he didn't say anything. It felt like the room was closing in, but I didn't break. I wasn't going to apologize for this. This was my choice. Finally, Jack's voice came out in a low growl. So you think you're above all of us now? No, I don't, I said, meeting his eyes. I think I've finally figured out who I am, and it's not about being above anyone. It's about doing something that matters. The silence between us stretched, thick with tension. Jack opened his mouth, then closed it again, as though he didn't know how to respond. I just wanted to do something that mattered, I said again, quieter this time. Rachel was the first to speak after a long pause. So, now what? I took a deep breath. Now I get to keep building. And maybe I'll let you in on it. But only if you stop trying to fit me into your box. The silence hung between us, suffocating and thick. Jack sat back down, his arms crossed tightly across his chest. His eyes were still fixed on me, but they were clouded with frustration, disbelief, and something else. Something that felt too close to betrayal. I could feel the weight of it all, like I was the one being accused of something, when all I'd done was keep my head down and build something real. You've been lying to me, Jack finally spat, his voice low but sharp. For years. I didn't lie, Dad, I said, keeping my tone steady. I just didn't tell you everything. I didn't think you'd understand. How could I understand if you never gave me a chance? He ran his hand through his hair, visibly agitated. You think I wouldn't have been proud of you? That I would have judged you? You just shut me out. I didn't answer right away. There was no point in explaining how long I'd been doing this dance with him. He didn't want to understand. He wanted to control the narrative. Sandra, who had been quiet for too long, finally spoke, her voice thick with emotion. I should have been there for you. I should have listened. I'm so sorry, Abby. Her eyes welled up with tears. I just didn't know what you were doing. I thought you were still struggling. I felt a pang of guilt. I didn't want to make her feel bad. But the truth was, I'd been protecting myself from the same thing I was feeling right now. Judgment. Mom, I didn't want you to know because I knew how you'd react, I said softly. You and Dad, you've always had a very clear idea of what success looks like, and I didn't want to disappoint you by being something else. Jack scoffed. So now you think I can't handle it? I would have been proud of you, Abby, if you'd just shared it with me. I can't believe I've been sitting here thinking you were still in that damn coffee shop when you were sitting on millions. I leaned forward, meeting his eyes. I didn't want you to look at me like I was different. Like I was just some rich kid who got lucky. That's not what this is. Rachel, who had been absorbed in her phone again, looked up, her eyes flashing with a mix of confusion and clarity. You never told us anything about this. Not once. She set her phone down and turned to Jack. But you don't get it, Dad. Abby's built something. She built it. She's not just some spoiled kid. She's actually doing something. Jack looked at her, stunned. This is what I mean, Rachel. She should have told us. She's been living in some fantasy world, and now look at this mess. I don't even know who she is anymore. Rachel shook her head. No, you're not getting it. You think success is about the old school way, getting a regular job, putting in your time. But Abby's success is real. She didn't need to ask for anyone's approval. She just did it. Why is that so hard to accept? Jack opened his mouth to argue, but Rachel was on a roll now. You know what, Dad? This whole thing, the way you're acting, it's your issue, not Abby's. She's been doing her own thing, and she's built an empire out of nothing. Nothing. I never said it wasn't impressive, Jack grumbled, looking away. But you're treating it like it doesn't matter. Like she's just hiding behind this tech stuff, Rachel pressed. She's not hiding. She's been working her ass off. You just didn't see it. I didn't want to step into their argument, but I knew I had to. Rachel was right. Jack couldn't see past his narrow view of success. Dad, I get it. You feel like I've been hiding things. But the truth is, I didn't want to change the way you looked at me. I didn't want you to treat me differently because I had money. I didn't want anyone to do that. Jack looked back at me, his face hardening. So you think I would have treated you differently because of the money? That's your excuse? No, I said, my voice finally rising. It's not about the money, it's about the judgment. I didn't want to be seen as some kind of freak who got lucky. I didn't want to deal with the pressure of living up to some ideal you've had of what my life should be. I didn't want to disappoint you, so I stayed quiet. Jack looked like he was about to say something, but Sandra interrupted him, her voice trembling. I just don't know how to process all of this, she said, wiping her eyes. I'm proud of you, Abby. I am. I just wish you would have trusted us. I do trust you, Mom, I said, the words finally coming out softer. But I needed to do this on my own. I needed to prove to myself that I could make it without anyone's help. And I did? Jack's face softened, just barely, but he wasn't ready to let go of his frustration. You should have trusted me, he said, his voice tight. You should have trusted your family. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said, finally letting out a breath. But I needed space to grow. If that makes me a liar, then I guess I'm guilty. But I didn't do it to hurt you. I did it to protect myself from being treated differently. The room went quiet again, the weight of the conversation lingering in the air. Rachel looked at Jack, her face softening just a little. She wasn't going to let this go, not without a fight. But for now, the battle was mine, and I was determined to make them understand. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I needed to explain this to them, really explain it. They had to understand why I did what I did, why it was never about the money, but about something bigger than any of us. I've been working on this for years, I started, feeling the weight of the words. It's about education. I've always believed that learning should be accessible to everyone, no matter their background. When I started out, I focused on tech that could change how people learn. Not just the tools for the classrooms, but the systems that surround it. How people learn, where they learn, what they have access to, everything. Jack was leaning back in his seat now, his arms still crossed, his expression skeptical. I could see he was listening, but he wasn't fully there yet. I've acquired a few companies, some focused on educational tools, others on online platforms that make higher education more affordable, and real estate near universities, so students can have affordable housing options. All of it's connected. It's not just about selling products, it's about creating a whole ecosystem for learning. I paused, watching their faces as I spoke. Rachel seemed to be processing it, but Jack was still squinting at me like I was speaking a different language. Sandra, on the other hand, was quiet, her gaze fixed on me. She looked tired, but not in the way I'd seen before. It was like the weight of everything I was saying was sinking in. Slowly, it was clicking. I didn't keep all this quiet because I'm ashamed of it, I continued. I kept it quiet because I didn't want the attention, or worse, the expectations. I didn't want to be treated differently just because I've had some success, and I didn't want to get caught up in the "I'm so special because I'm rich" narrative. It's not about that. It's about doing something real that helps people. Jack still wasn't convinced. And what? You think you can just change the whole system? You're one person. That's not how things work. I shook my head. That's exactly how things work. Change starts small, Jack. You don't have to blow things up all at once. You do it piece by piece, making things better for people who need it most. I just don't get it, Jack muttered. How's all this supposed to help? You're talking about billions. Why not just give it away? Why the whole empire? I didn't hesitate. Because it's sustainable. Giving away money is nice, but it doesn't change anything long term. What I'm doing, building companies, investing in education, creating access, that's how you create real change. It's about making sure people have the resources they need to succeed and doing it in a way that can last. Sandra wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, her voice breaking a little. I didn't understand. I thought you were just trying to get rich. I thought you were just playing around with things. But now I see it. I bit my lip, fighting the emotion that was creeping up. Mom, I didn't want you to think I was playing around. This has always been my passion. And yeah, it took time to get where I am, but it was never about just making money. It's about changing the world. Sandra reached out and took my hand, her grip firm but gentle. I'm so sorry I didn't see that. I thought I knew what was best for you. I thought you'd just go the normal route, get a real job, settle down. I didn't get it. Her voice cracked. I'm so proud of you, Abby. I just didn't know how to support you in the way you needed. I squeezed her hand. It wasn't about not having support. It was about me figuring out how to make this work on my own. I didn't want anyone's pity or to be treated like I was doing things the wrong way. Jack was silent for a long moment, his gaze softening, but I knew he wasn't quite there yet. He was still struggling to reconcile the daughter he thought he knew with the woman standing in front of him. I didn't know how much you were doing, Abby, he said quietly. I didn't realize how much this meant to you. I thought you were wasting time. Hell, I thought you were just avoiding real life. He paused, looking at me, like the pieces were finally coming together. But this is something. I nodded, feeling the weight of everything lifting just a little. It is, and I know it's not what you expected, but it's what I needed. I needed to prove to myself that I could do this on my own, that I could make something real without living in anyone's shadow. Jack didn't say anything for a few moments, just sat there processing. But finally, he spoke again, quieter now, like he was letting the truth settle. I'm not proud of how I acted. I was too quick to judge you, Abby. He rubbed his face. I didn't understand. I'm sorry. The words felt heavy between us. It wasn't a grand confession, but it was enough. It was enough to start rebuilding. Sandra squeezed my hand again, her tears still coming, but this time, they felt like tears of understanding. I just never thought, you've always had such big dreams, but I never realized how much you were making them happen. I see it now. I took a breath, my shoulders relaxing for the first time in what felt like forever. Thank you, Mom. I'm glad you see it. I've been working for this for so long. Rachel smiled at me, a small, knowing look on her face. Well, it's about time we knew what the hell was going on. I laughed, feeling the tension finally ease. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The conversation had settled, but the weight of what had just happened lingered in the air, heavy and palpable. Just as we were starting to breathe again, my phone buzzed again. The number on the screen was from my PR team. I hesitated for a second before answering. Abby, hey, it's Claire, the voice on the other end said. I just wanted to give you a heads up. We're getting a lot of press interest in your donation to the Education Tech Project. It's going to be covered extensively. There's a major announcement coming soon. We're preparing the media release and a press conference. I blinked, a knot forming in my stomach. Wait, hold on. A press conference? Yeah, we're scheduling it soon. The press is catching wind of your involvement in this and your other ventures, and it's gaining momentum. It's going to be big, Abby. You'll need to get ready for the spotlight. I glanced over at my family, who were watching me closely. The room felt like it was shrinking, the walls closing in. Okay, I said, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. I'll get prepared. Thanks for the heads up. Of course, we'll send over the details. I'll make sure you have everything you need. Talk soon. I hung up the phone, trying to keep my breathing steady, but the panic was already creeping up my throat. A press conference? Really? I hadn't even wrapped my head around all the media attention. I had barely processed my family's reactions, and now the whole world was going to find out. I rubbed my temples, trying to push the anxiety away. Well, that's something, I muttered. Jack raised an eyebrow. What's something? I looked up at him, trying to sound calm. The press is going to cover my donation and everything I've been working on. It's getting big. There's a press conference coming up. For a moment, Jack said nothing. He just sat there, looking at me with a mixture of disbelief and concern, like he couldn't quite figure out whether to be proud or terrified. Sandra's face softened, but I could see the worry in her eyes too. A press conference? Jack finally repeated, shaking his head. You've got to be kidding me. You've been keeping all of this under wraps and now you're just going public? I nodded, feeling the weight of his words. It's part of it, Dad. It's how the game works. The media's already picked up on it, and it's not just going to go away. I'll be handling it, but yeah, it's happening. Sandra looked at me, her voice gentle but concerned. Are you sure you're ready for this, Abby? It's a lot of attention. We know you've been keeping a low profile for a reason. I know, Mom, I said, my voice strained. But I've worked hard for this, and it's not just about me anymore. It's about what I'm trying to do, what we're doing with these projects. I can't hide from it. I have to step up. Jack let out a frustrated breath, his voice rising. Step up? You think I'm the one who's been hiding from it? This whole thing, the media, the attention, you think it's just going to go the way you want? It's not that easy. I know it's not that easy, Dad, I said, trying to keep my patience. But I can't control how it's going to unfold. I can only control how I handle it. I'll be ready. Jack crossed his arms, clearly still uncomfortable with the whole idea. You say that, but what about all the exposure, the judgment? How do you plan on handling that? I sighed, running a hand through my hair. It's part of the process. There's always going to be judgment, but I'm used to it. What I'm doing matters. It's not just about me. It's about the work. Rachel, who had been quiet until now, leaned forward with a small grin. Honestly, Abs, you should just embrace it. You've worked your ass off to get here. You deserve the spotlight. Who cares what anyone thinks? I looked over at her, surprised. Embrace it? Rachel, you know how I feel about being in the spotlight. She shrugged. Yeah, but you can't just keep hiding forever. You've got something to show. People need to know what you're doing. And let's be real, you're probably going to get a ton of press. Why not take advantage of it? Jack shot her a sharp look. Take advantage of it? This isn't about taking advantage, Rachel. This is about being thrown into the fire. And you think that's easy? Rachel didn't back down. I think it's better than running away from it. She's done something huge. You don't get to just hide in the background forever. You have to own it, Dad. I held my breath, feeling the tension flare up between them. Jack's face reddened, and for a second, I was afraid they were going to argue again. But instead, Jack just shook his head, clearly still processing everything. I just don't get it, he muttered. All this attention? I don't know how to deal with it. I stood up, trying to push the panic down. You don't have to. I'm handling it. I'll manage the press. But I need you to be there. I can't do it alone. Sandra reached over, squeezing my hand. We'll be there. You've got this, Abby. I nodded, taking a deep breath. Thanks, I'll figure it out. It's just a lot right now. Rachel smiled. You've got this, sis. We're with you. The tension in the room didn't dissolve completely, but for the first time today, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't facing it all alone. The press conference had gone as well as I could have hoped. The room was packed with reporters, cameras flashing, microphones shoved in my face. I answered questions with confidence, smiling through the nerves. I talked about the vision behind my work, how the donations would help transform education, how the companies I'd built were changing the game. It felt like a win, like I'd finally stepped into the light I'd been avoiding for so long. But as soon as the event wrapped up and I got back to my hotel room, reality hit. My phone was buzzing nonstop, messages pinging in from every direction. At first, I thought it was just the usual buzz after a big event. But when I opened my social media, my stomach dropped. The praise was there, sure. Lots of support, lots of people excited about the future of education. But there were just as many people tearing me apart. The first headline I saw made my stomach twist. Tech mogul dropout defends her billion-dollar empire. Does she really have the credentials? I scrolled through the thread, feeling the sting of every comment. Just a dropout pretending to know what she's doing. How can someone with no formal education be trusted to revolutionize the system? Just another rich kid exploiting education for profit. My fingers trembled as I scrolled, reading more of the same. I couldn't believe how quickly the narrative was turning. It wasn't about the impact of my work anymore. It was about me, the dropout who had the audacity to build an empire. I tossed the phone onto the bed, rubbing my face. My hands were shaking. I knew there would be backlash, but the depth of it, how quickly people had latched onto the rich kid angle, caught me off guard. I'd barely had time to process when my parents called. They'd seen the news, of course. You okay? Sandra's voice was soft but laced with concern. I saw some of those comments. Some of the press. It's harsh, Abby. I leaned back against the wall, closing my eyes. I expected it, Mom. I knew some people would try to tear me down. But it still stings, you know? Jack's voice came through the line next, rough and clipped. I saw that piece. They're calling you a fraud, Abby. I don't know what to say about it. I'm not a fraud, I said, the words coming out sharper than I meant them to. I stood up, pacing the room. I'm doing something real, Dad. It's not about credentials or what they think I should have done. It's about what I'm doing now. I know, kid, Jack said, but there was hesitation in his tone. But they're gonna come after you for your past. They're gonna try to make you look like you're in over your head. I ran my hand through my hair. I've been preparing for that. I've always known this was coming. It's part of the deal when you get to this point. I get that, Jack replied, his voice softer. But I don't like how this is going down. You've worked your ass off, but you're still gonna have people questioning everything you do. The whole world's got a microscope on you now. I know, Dad, I said again, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. But I can't focus on the noise. It's just part of the process. The call ended, and I stared at my phone for a long moment, feeling the weight of everything. The success, the media attention, and the negative backlash were all merging into one big, suffocating thing. I could feel the pressure of it building. I heard a knock at the door before it opened, and Rachel stepped in, a concerned look on her face. You okay? I saw some of the headlines. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. Just a little overwhelming. Rachel sat down on the bed next to me. You knew this was coming, right? The media's always going to twist things, but they're also going to get some of it right. I don't care about them getting it right or wrong, I said, letting out a breath. I care about the fact that people are seeing me as just a rich dropout instead of seeing the work behind it. That's what stings, Rachel nodded. Yeah, I get that. But I think you can turn it around. You've got the spotlight now, Abs. Use it. You've got something to say, and you don't have to let their negativity take it from you. I don't know if I want the spotlight, I muttered, feeling the weight of it pressing down on me. I just wanted to do good work. You can still do good work, Rachel said, giving me a little grin. Just maybe do it with the spotlight on you. You've earned it. Not sure I'm ready for all this attention, I admitted. It's too much. I've spent years working in the shadows. I didn't expect to be thrust into this. Well, get used to it, she said, her grin widening. You're in it now, whether you like it or not. The tension in my shoulders didn't ease, but something in me shifted. Maybe it was Rachel's confidence, or maybe it was the realization that I had no choice but to face what was happening. I couldn't hide anymore. I couldn't stay in the background forever. The backlash was real, and it hurt, but it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. I picked up my phone again, scrolling through the comments, the headlines. This time, I didn't let the negativity hit me as hard. I had a vision, and no matter how many people tried to tear it down, I wasn't backing down. I wasn't just going to let the backlash define me. The next few days were tense. The press coverage, the backlash, the constant social media bombardment, it had all left me drained. But it was more than just the external pressure. It was the quiet, simmering distance between me and Jack. We hadn't talked much since the press conference. He'd been quieter than usual, not snapping at me, but not exactly warm either. And I knew that was my fault. I'd kept him at arm's length for years, hiding things, avoiding confrontation. But now it felt like everything was laid out on the table, and we were still figuring out how to piece it back together. Jack called me one afternoon, his voice gruff but less guarded than before. You free tomorrow? I want to see one of these companies you keep talking about. I paused, surprised, but agreed. Sure, I'll show you around, but you'll need to see it for yourself. It's not what you think. The next morning, we drove to one of my company's headquarters. It was a sleek, modern building in the heart of the city, open-plan offices, bright walls, and floor-to-ceiling windows that let in natural light. It didn't look like anything Jack would have expected. I could see his eyes darting around, assessing the place, as if he were trying to figure out how it all worked. I led him through the building, showing him the different teams at work. Developers collaborating on a new learning platform, data analysts crunching numbers to improve student outcomes, and educators brainstorming ways to make their tools more accessible. I could tell Jack wasn't entirely comfortable. He was still the same Jack, skeptical, a little out of his depth, but I could see the wheels turning in his head. This is all different than I expected, Jack said, his voice low, like he was still trying to make sense of it all. I thought you were just making a bunch of tech stuff, selling it off, making money. I didn't realize you were actually doing this. I nodded, watching him closely. It's more than just selling products, Dad. The tools we're building, the platforms, they're all meant to improve access to education. We're helping kids in underserved areas get the same opportunities as kids in wealthier districts. We've partnered with schools that never had access to this kind of technology before. As we walked through the building, I pointed out a few of the real-world applications of our work, like how a struggling high school in a rural area had started, using our platforms and saw a significant improvement in graduation rates. A young teacher walked by, greeting me with a smile, and I introduced her to Jack. This is Emily. She teaches a few classes that use our tech tools. She's seen firsthand how it changes things for the students. Emily gave Jack a quick wave. I teach history, and we've been using your platforms for about a year now. It's been amazing, honestly. The students who struggled the most are finally engaging. Some of them are even talking about going to college now. Jack raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback. That's real. That's not just some gimmick. I smiled, feeling a sense of pride that I hadn't expected. Exactly. It's not just about the tech. It's about giving people a chance. These kids have the same potential as any other kid, but they don't always get the same resources. That's what we're trying to change. We walked through a few more departments, and I could tell Jack was starting to see the scope of it, how much work went into it, how much impact we were having. But it was when we stopped by a conference room full of students that it finally hit him. There was a group of high school seniors sitting around a table, all focused on their laptops, working on a project. I'd helped fund a scholarship program that had provided these students with laptops, internet access, and the chance to take online courses. They all looked up when we entered, and one girl stood up to introduce herself. I'm Maria. I just got accepted into college with a full scholarship, she said with a shy smile. I never thought I'd make it. But your program helped me. This platform helped me get through all the college prep stuff, and I'm going to be the first in my family to go to college. Jack's face softened, his arms uncrossing as he watched the kids interact. He didn't say anything for a while, but I could see his expression change. The skepticism was still there, but now there was something else, understanding. When we left the room, Jack didn't speak immediately. We walked down the hallway in silence for a few minutes before he finally said something. I didn't get it, he admitted quietly. I thought you were just chasing money, Abby. I thought you were doing all this for yourself. But what you're doing here, it's real. It's making a difference. I stopped walking and turned to him, my heart in my throat. It's been a long road, Dad. It wasn't easy. It wasn't always clear, but I stuck with it because I knew it was worth it. Jack looked at me for a long moment, like he was seeing me in a new light. His voice was thick when he spoke again. I'm proud of you, Abby. You didn't give up, even when it seemed like everything was falling apart. I don't understand it all, but I respect it. I respect you. I felt a lump form in my throat, and I had to swallow hard to keep it together. Thanks, Dad. It means a lot to hear you say that. We stood there for a moment, the words hanging between us, heavy but real. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were finally on the same page. Like maybe Jack understood the things I'd been trying to explain for so long. I don't always understand why you do things the way you do, he said, voice gruff but kind. But I'm proud of you for sticking with it. I'm proud of you for making something that matters. I nodded, my voice catching. I'm glad I didn't give up either. It hasn't been easy, but I'm glad I stayed true to what I believed. Jack clapped me on the shoulder, a rare smile tugging at his lips. You've done something special, Abby, and I'm glad to see it. You've come a long way. Later that night, as we sat around the dinner table at my parents' house, the conversation had shifted. It was no longer about the media frenzy or the tension we'd all been holding. It was about the future. My future. So, what's next for you, Abs? Rachel asked, leaning forward with a curious look. She was the first to really embrace this new chapter, always eager to see what came next. You've got this momentum now. What's the big plan? I leaned back in my chair, taking a moment to gather my thoughts. The weight of the past few months had been intense, but now, for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to look ahead. I'm expanding, I said, my voice steady. I've got a few more companies I want to build and invest in, especially ones focused on education. There's so much more to do. We've only scratched the surface of how we can make learning accessible and effective for everyone, not just the privileged few. I'm also working on some major donations to education initiatives, funding scholarships, creating more tools, partnering with schools that need it most. Jack nodded, looking less skeptical now. It's a big vision. You've always had a big vision. He glanced at Sandra, who gave him a small, supportive smile. I know you've been hesitant, but I think you're finally seeing it, Dad, I said. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about making a lasting impact. Sandra's eyes softened, her voice full of pride. We're with you now, Abby. I see it. I see what you're doing. And I'm so proud of you. You've done something incredible, and I can't wait to see where you take it. Rachel chimed in. Yeah, seriously, this is just the beginning for you. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You've got the world ahead of you? Their words felt like a weight lifting off me, but also a confirmation of what I'd already known deep down. I needed their support, sure, but more than that, I needed to prove to myself that I was capable of achieving what I had set out to do. I wasn't just doing this for validation, I was doing it because I believed in it. And now, finally, my family believed in it too. We spent the rest of the evening talking about what I could do next, the people I needed to meet, the places I wanted to go. It was the first time in ages that I didn't feel like I was carrying everything on my own. As I left their house and drove home, the city lights twinkling in the distance, I couldn't help but think about how far I'd come. From the uncertainty of working a job that didn't fulfill me, to building an empire from the ground up. From trying to hide my success to standing tall and proud of what I'd achieved. It hadn't been easy. There had been so many moments of doubt, of thinking I wasn't enough, that maybe I wasn't cut out for any of this. But those moments were in the past now, buried beneath everything I had accomplished. I pulled into my driveway, the familiar quiet of home settling around me. As I turned off the engine, I sat there for a moment, letting the silence wash over me. There was no more questioning myself, no more hiding. I had done this. And I knew now, more than ever, that the unconventional path I'd taken was the exact one I needed. I was ready for whatever came next. The future was wide open, and I was no longer afraid to chase it.